Treasure Wars. What an epic game. Although I've played it a handful of times, it was most definitely worth it. Solos or trios, even squads, I will definitely miss it. From the rushers and tryhards to the mobile and 9-year-olds. It was frustration versus excitement versus giggly constantly. There was always something to look forward to when I logged on and saw the pirate before me. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It was always like, oh boy, who's to our left today? Oh blue? Great, let's see if they are PCs or not. Oh Andrew and Saf, you guys take the gens first. Even in chatting and directing, I will miss. Love and miss you always, Treasure Wars. Time for a new beginning. Treasure Wars will be coming to an end in less than 24 hours. And that is a very difficult fact to face when it's right in between your eyes. For those who don't know, one of Hive's most beloved games, one of Hive's oldest games, Treasure Wars, will be removed in approximately 23, maybe 22 hours from now, and will be replaced by Bed Wars, a modernized and upgraded version of Treasure Wars. But getting back on track, it is really terrifying to acknowledge the fact that something like Treasure Wars has been a part of your life, in this case, my life, for 5 years. I have been playing on and off since 2019. I have almost 7,000 games played. So that tells you all you need to know about how much I've been around this game and why it's so weird and different seeing it go. And here's the thing. 5 years doesn't sound like a lot. I get that. It's not that big of an amount. 5 years, half a decade, what does that amount to? Well, it's plenty when you think about it. On paper, it may not look like much, but 5 years ago, I had just began my second semester of 9th grade. I wasn't even 15 years old yet. I was 14. I graduated already, and I'm going to be turning 20 in June. So think about that. Going from a little mini grade 9er, the baby high schooler, to somebody who's already graduated. That's crazy. That's how much time has passed, and it feels like a whole lifetime between when I started playing this game and where we are now. But despite that nostalgia, those feelings of growing up and how much we have changed in contrast to a game that hasn't really, it's time for Treasure Wars to go. It's time for this game to have its rest and its peace. While I'm definitely not the best at Treasure Wars, it's a very fun game, especially when you're playing with friends, like my amazing friend Andrew and a few others. We can work together and make fun of trolls. This is my favorite part personally. I always really enjoyed being defense, especially when it comes to building around the treasure. I'm definitely going to miss playing it. It's interesting that my friend makes that point about how there are trolls littered everywhere. Treasure Wars is a unique game for me in that sense. Somehow it is littered with some of the most toxic bastards you could ever find in any video game. And yet, there's something about it that just keeps bringing you back. And maybe that is the time you have with your friends, your family, your lovers, all of it. I played this with my girlfriend all the time, and while I wanted to throw my keyboard half the time, my heart was always with this game. Sooner or later, I always came crawling back.
However, there is one grilling issue with Treasure Wars. Everybody's competition. Unless you're a PC, you're outclassed, no matter what.
And still I came back.
Are you going for 32 wool to bridge, or going for a sword to defend? The reason why this system should be admired so much more than it is because it allows players the choice of freedom.
Or what about that time I was ready to quit?
And now as I talk, it has been a couple hours since I've hit level 100. Now the reason why I wanted to get level 100 is A, I don't want to have to keep coming back to thinking of it as a grind fest, but on another note, I had a huge passion for this game. I had a huge heart for this game. This was a game I found myself to be truly decent at, and I wanted to see how far I could take it, and honestly, I am proud to have seen what I've accomplished over the last 3 years of playing Treasure Wars. I've been around since nearly day one, and here I am over 1,000 days later, still having the same passion for this game. I just wanted the Grindfest to be done, admittedly. It was just frustrating, it was getting redundant at this point. I love Treasure Wars with all my heart, but, it's getting quite repetitive rather quickly.
Shortly after that video, say a month after or so, They added prestiges, and up to level 600 could be obtained. I stopped at level 234, which is what you were seeing in this gameplay before you, which was recorded about 2 hours prior to me recording this specific part of the video. I never saw it as a priority to grind to 600 like most did. I never needed that level of satisfaction. I didn't want to burn myself out and end up hating this great game. Instead, I wanted to enjoy it the way that I always have. And luckily, because of the way that I played this game, I still was able to enjoy it, even to this day. Hell, even my last video in Treasure Wars was 7 months ago. 32 blocks or a sword? Do I want to play a sort of offensive, defensive with a sword? Do I want to use blocks to get around? Or maybe I just want to use blocks to cover up the treasure? I have a lot of choices here. It may have pissed me off, but it was still a really good time. No matter how many times I was defeated by very annoying players. Holy shit. It was a heck of a fun game that we spent a lot of time playing, and it was a lot of fun. I'm kind of sad it's leaving because of how much time I spent playing it and all of the fun times we spent playing. But overall, 10 out of 10 game. I mean, it was fun, except for the really mean tryhards. And I think that's one of the main reasons why Treasure Wars has to retire its crown to something new and improved. And that's because Treasure Wars has become a game that's way too simple for its own good. As long as you can click fast, and you're good at pointing your mouse in any direction that you desire, Treasure Wars will forever be a game that you dominate. And unfortunately, due to the lack of any coherent skill-based matchmaking, it's going to be an unfair experience for most players. I have a friend who will touch upon this later in his quote, but for as it stands right now, Treasure Wars is brutal sometimes. I think Treasure Wars plays into a game that is so simple that the hardest thing about learning Treasure Wars is how to drag click and do all these advanced techniques where that's not what a game should be about. No matter how fast you move your fingers, there is just some physical limitations of people that others can surpass and others cannot. So why punish those who can't by giving them an unfair disadvantage? And building off of this point, I hope that when they bring out Bed Wars, it's a little bit more complex than Treasure Wars. It's not quite as straightforward. I want there to be much more strategy incorporated. So we can have brute and brains versus all brute, no brains or all brains, no brute. There should be an ability to enjoy and access much more interesting and varied encounters. Now, don't get the wrong idea. I don't think having competition in any game is necessarily bad. I just think that competition should be with competition. Casuals and competitive players should be separated. Most of my friends are casual players. They play to have fun. They don't play like their life is on the line. I've fallen to this weird awkward place in the middle. I play passionately, but I don't play like my life support's gonna give if I lose. Come Bed Wars, I want myself and my friends to have a chance in unique ways against the hardcore sweaty players. If Sweats want to run around and dominate everything with their high CPS and their advanced clicking techniques, all the power to them. However, I want a fair chance in a way that might not translate the same, but will still give us an edge if utilized correctly. You could make the argument that this is just me being salty, but I actually want to think that modern gaming can be shaped in a way that has both intelligence and brute force taken into account. And that's something a lot of games struggle with. I would rate it a 7.5. All in all, I had pretty good experiences alongside you and our friend, as it was pretty fun and memorable. I'd say that it did feel pretty repetitive, but I did like the competitiveness of it, as I like those kind of games. However, PC players did have the bigger advantage, usually having less leggy platforms to play on, first hits and such. Yeah, 7.5. Even an 8? And that's another good point about why Treasure Wars needs to retire. The thing is, it is a very repetitive game. The meta is that you go out and rush every single base in sight, and that never stops being completely true. And keep in mind, Caleb, the last person who had spoke, he is an OG player and exclusively an OG player, meaning that he played back in 2019 and 2020 and stopped playing in 2020, at least to my knowledge. So if he's saying that then, imagine how it is now in 2024. Now we have the second final quote of this video, and then I will conclude it myself. I'm gonna miss Treasure Wars. It was a game that pissed me right off because of how sweaty people can be. They'd sit on their fat asses clicking 17 times a second, and I'd be spawned right next to him. However, the feeling of beating people like that was like no other. It wasn't often you could beat someone like that, but when you have a good game, it was a great feeling. I didn't really like the matchmaking system, but there were lots of assets to this game that made it fun. The item shop was good, the way some of the maps were laid out, because some kinda suck. Some of the scenery of the maps in general as well, the gold, diamond, and emerald system. Lots of things made this game as special as it was. It was always a fun time to play with your friends, defend your base, and defeat little bitches. I hope with Bed Wars they can fix some of the flaws to this game, like the matchmaking system and how sweaty some people are. I think they're also adding more to the item shop, which would be cool. I also hope they add some new maps while keeping some of the maps that made this game. Cyberspace and O2 were the best ones, and I hope they keep those. Overall, Treasure Wars was a great game, was lots of fun, but had some flaws, which I hope they fix with Bed Wars, because this game can be very aggravating sometimes. I hope it continues to be one of my favorites. Honestly, everything that Sav had to say there, I totally felt that. But I want to say one more thing before I end this video. Treasure Wars was a Minecraftian place I called home. I had various arguments, many laughs, a plethora of memories, and a place where my passion of gaming peaked. It wasn't a perfect game, nor will it ever be, but it was still wonderful. It's a facet that is a part of me and a place I will probably remember for the rest of my life. Treasure Wars demonstrates what passionate design and creation can do for someone. Hive is a business first and a friend second, but truly, thank you for bringing life to such a wonderful, not minigame, but a circle that most can enjoy. You will be missed, but it's time to step down. Until Bed Wars, old friend.